Hey everyone, my name is Kelsey, and this is our unit review for short stories. At the beginning of this unit, we talked about the common elements that bond all short stories together, regardless of their type or origin. Elements like plot, setting, characters, and conflict. We also talked about the different devices that authors could choose to incorporate depending on their style, subject, and purpose, and we called those literary devices. Throughout this unit, you've learned a ton of new literary devices, like the different types of irony and the many types of figurative language. You've learned about tone and mood, symbolism, diction, flashbacks, and foreshadowing. We've also spent time examining authors' intentional choices, like what point of view they choose to write from, their methods of characterization, or how they choose to reveal information to the reader. For your final assignment of this unit, you'll combine the knowledge you've gained about short stories with the writing and language skills that you've practiced to compose a literary analysis essay. In this video, we'll take a closer look at that assignment, break down an example, and discuss how you can strengthen your writing in the revising and editing stages. To begin, let's read through our essay prompt. While no two short stories are exactly alike, different authors are known to explore similar themes and ideas in their works. Choose two stories that you have read in this unit from the list below and analyze how both stories treat a similar theme or idea. For this example here, I'm going to choose The Monkey's Paw and The Necklace because I think they both focus on how desire can sometimes get the best of us. Before we move any further in our plan, though, let's take a look at the essay requirements. In your analysis, be sure to include an introduction in which you provide a brief overview of both stories, include a clear thesis statement in which you state the common theme of both texts and the similarities and differences in the way each author portrays this theme, include discussion of story elements and literary devices significant in each text in order to portray theme, cite evidence from both stories chosen, organize your essay in a clear, logical manner that aligns with your thesis statement, include a conclusion in which you restate your thesis and summarize the major points of your essay, utilize unit vocabulary when appropriate in order to convey your ideas, use proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation throughout your essay, and use MLA formatting when writing your essay. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start how I would plan out this essay. Every essay begins with a thesis statement, and that thesis is the roadmap for my entire essay. So I know that in my thesis statement, I have to fit three things in: the common theme between both stories and the similarities and differences in how that theme is portrayed. So for my theme, I'm going to say that desire can have serious consequences because I think that that is true in both stories. For my similarity, I'm going to say that both texts use situational irony because in both stories, the opposite of what we expected to happen occurred. Mr. White got the money that he wished for, but he lost his son in the process, and Madame Loisel spent her whole life working off this necklace that wasn't worth anything. For my difference between the two stories' portrayal of the theme, I think I'll focus on elements that are unique to each text. So for The Monkey's Paw, there was a lot of foreshadowing, and in The Necklace, it focused more on characterization. Specifically, Madame Loisel was used to make the point about desire and its dangerous consequences. So now that I have my main ideas that I need to fit into my thesis statement, let's put it all into a sentence. And remember, with our thesis, we want to keep it as concise as possible. So I'm going to say, while both stories use irony to convey the theme that desire can have dangerous consequences, The Monkey's Paw relies heavily on foreshadowing to convey this theme, while The Necklace utilizes characterization. Let's reread that and quickly make sure that I have met the criteria. I have a theme, I have a similarity, and I have a difference in the way the theme is portrayed. Which means that I'm ready to move on to planning out my body paragraphs. So this looks similar to the graphic organizer that you received in your resources packet for this week. And in this unit, we've already learned that our thesis is the roadmap for our essay. And what that means is that my body paragraphs need to match my thesis. So my first should focus on the situational irony that's in both texts. And my second should focus on the foreshadowing in one story and the characterization in the other. For the sake of this example, I'm just going to walk you through how I would plan out my first paragraph so you get an idea of what you can do when planning your body paragraphs. So I know that I have to prove that both authors use irony, specifically situational irony, which means I have to find evidence from both texts that shows situational irony, when the opposite of what is expected happens. In The Monkey's Paw, that is when Herbert dies in order for the Whites to receive the money that Mr. White wished for. So I can pull a quote from that portion of the text. And I'm going to use the part where the firm offers the Whites compensation, which grants their wish at the expense of their son's life. So the quote reads, "In consideration of your son's services, they wish to present you with a certain sum as compensation." And I know that I will have to use in-text citations, so I'm going to go ahead and add that now. This quote comes from page 17, so my citation would be my author's last name, which is Jacobs, 17, which is the page number, and then close the parentheses and put the period after the parentheses. Now I need an example of irony from the necklace, specifically situational irony. This is pretty easy because we talked a lot about situational irony in the necklace, and I know for a fact that the ending of that story is ironic when we discovered that the necklace was worthless. So I will find the quote that demonstrates that as evidence and add it here. So the quote reads, "Why, my necklace was paste. It was worth at most only 500 francs. And that is from page 51. So now I have my whole first body paragraph outlined, and I could do the same thing with body paragraph 2, looking for an example of foreshadowing for the monkey's paw and an example of characterization in the necklace. So before we close out this video, I just want to go over a few things to keep in mind as you're writing your essay and finishing up your unit with the assessment. Make sure that you are using MLA formatting throughout your essay. So size 12 font in Arial or Times New Roman. Your whole paper should be double-spaced. Remember that titles of short stories are put in quotation marks and to use in-text citations throughout your essay when quoting material from the texts. Remember to write in present tense so that your reader feels engaged in your essay, and to stay in the third person, so no I, we, or you pronouns should be used in your essay unless they're part of a direct quote. Keep your voice on point by avoiding the use of contractions or informal language, so no slang or abbreviations like we use when we're texting our friends. And use the vocabulary that you've learned in this unit to make your essay stronger. Proofreading is your friend, and it's honestly so helpful if you read it out loud. As you do so, listen for mistakes and remember the comma rules that you've learned throughout this unit so that your punctuation game is flawless. As you go to write your literary analysis, remember that you have all the tools you need in your materials from this unit. Also, keep in mind that literature is open to an endless number of interpretations. Many of the stories that we have read in this unit have surprise endings or endings that are open for the reader to interpret. So don't be afraid to make a claim about a story that's different or unexpected, as long as you can back it up with evidence. Lastly, be sure to check out your unit review guide at the end of this week before you take your final assessment. Great work in this unit, and I'll see you next time.